If the objection based on resemblance is meant to be saying that a fetus physically resembles a person and thus should be given some of the same protections and rights as a person, then Warren would respond by essentially saying that physical resemblance is not related to personhood. There is no connection between what you physically look like and being a member of the moral community. One way I think about this is that there could be a body double of me right here next to me that physically looks like me to a T, but if that body double is not conscious, does not have the capacity for reasoning, does not have self-motivated activity, etc., then that body, that physical object, is not a person. It does not meet enough of the 5 criteria to be considered a member of the moral community. So physical resemblance is, not a good reason to consider a fetus a person. The other way of interpreting this objection was in terms of the 5 criteria. And perhaps the objector is saying that a fetus, though not completely meeting any of the 5 criteria, except for maybe consciousness/sentience after 24 weeks, a fetus does begin to develop characteristics that resemble some of those 5 criteria. Warren's response to this version of the objection is to kind of give in a little bit. And she says, I'm willing to accept that if a being resembles a person in terms of the 5 criteria, then that being could begin to obtain some of the same rights and protections as a full-fledged person. However, Warren goes on to say that a fetus still does not resemble these 5 criteria in any significant way. In other words, and she makes a strong claim here, she says that a fish, a newborn guppy, is actually the equivalent of a human fetus in terms of the 5 criteria. So if you think of a newborn guppy in the pond, it's moving around, it's wiggling, it's conscious or sentient to some extent, but do you want to describe a guppy as rational, as having self-motivated activity, free will, the presence of self-concepts? If you're going to say that a guppy has any of those qualities, you're only going to say that it has those qualities in a very rudimentary, basic form. And so if the equivalent is a fetus, then again, a fetus is only going to have rights and the protections of a person in a very rudimentary, basic form. In other words, the rights to life of a fetus that resembles a person are going to be basic. And those basic rights of the fetus cannot override the rights of the mother, who is a full-fledged member of the moral community. So Warren's willing to bite the bullet slightly there and give in to resemblance in terms of the 5 criteria, but she's still going to argue that a fetus does not resemble those 5 criteria, a genuine person, in any kind of significant way, in a significant way that would trump the personhood and rights of the mother. So therefore, essentially, this objection fails, according to Warren.